Before they were pop culture icons, they were just four baby turtles dropped in the sewers of New York. In this episode, we dive into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's time for another episode of Pixel Realms. Welcome to Pixel Realms, a podcast all about gaming and entertainment. Please leave us a like and subscribe for more content. And let's jump right into the news. This is episode 29, Turtles in a Half Shell, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Joe, let's go.
We have a brand new logo, so for the 8 people that watch or listen to our podcast, we do have a new logo, trying to figure out something that worked ideal with our name. So as you see, it looks like a realm. Well, it's supposed to look like a realm, so it's the entrance into a realm. So this is Pixel Realms. And the idea is that every episode is a different realm. So in this episode, we are doing the Ninja Turtles. And let's go into the next news, which is Fallout Season 2. So Season 1 came out a while back ago, and I loved it to death. I know, Mark, you eventually watched it, I believe.
I didn't finish it, but I didn't dislike it. It's just that I just haven't had a lot of time to watch stuff, and I was watching it with my wife, and because we watch stuff together, it makes it even harder to watch things, given her schedule being a driver for UPS. So
yeah. Well, either way, Season 1 was really, really good. I fell in love with it right away, and was excited to hear that.
Even though I didn't finish it, I hadn't finished it yet. Like, what I've seen of it is fantastic.
And Season 2 was greenlit right away, and they just announced as well with the Season 2 premiere date of December 2025 that Season 3 is also on the docket as well. So excited to see this going forward.
Sorry, do you think it's... I've always wondered about this, and I like that seasons get greenlit pretty quickly, but do you think it's always wise to greenlit the next season right away? Because what if Season 2 kind of does badly, like really badly? I guess they could just up and cancel it, but I've always kind of wondered.
Well, I like the idea for the fact that it gives the writers something to shoot for. So they know they can do 3 seasons. They know they have all that.
That's very fair.
So they can build that story versus, well, hell, we don't know if we're going to exist after this season, so we might just wrap up our stories at this point, and then we have to start from scratch going into the next season. So at least it gives them something to shoot for.
No, that's very fair. Also, Stellar Blade is launching on Steam on June 11th. Now, this was a leak. Apparently, someone made an oopsie day over at Sony, and this got out. And Stellar Blade did relatively well, I believe, for Sony. I saw it up for a few awards even last year, even though I don't think they won any. It is made by a very beloved developer, the people who do I always forget the full name of it. It's called I want to say it's called like Project Mickey or whatever. It's a mobile game that you can also play on Steam and on your computer. It's kind of got the gacha gimmick, as well as the it's really well known as, I call it, we call it the jiggly butt game, because it's the one where if they turn and they shoot at the enemies and they're kind of their butt jiggles. It's a little bit raunchy, but and it's a shame that it's known for that, because the company that makes this game, I had it. I even looked at it this morning, and of course now that we're live, I can't remember their name. But the company that makes the game, that writes the game, they're really good at telling stories, and not like feel good, happy stories. Like, some of this stuff is dark stuff. So the fact that it's kind of known for one thing is a shame. So anyone who hasn't played Stellar Blade and it was interested in it on PlayStation, but was like, I don't want to play it on PlayStation, this will be something to grab, and I think it'll do very well. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. I might even check it out myself.
Yeah, I've always been interested into it, even though I don't really care for those type of style games. But either way, my eyes were on it. Regardless, it looks like it'd be a fun game.
Yeah, I think it'll at least be a very solid game, even if it doesn't go down in histories or anything like that. I think it'll be at least a fun, solid game. Speaking of going down in histories,
Dang,
though,
you stole
Mr.
it.
Joe,
You stole it. I was about to do it.
I
Created by
sniped it
Kevin
back.
Eastman and Peter Lard in 1984. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
After I was born.
debuted as a black and white indie comic. So,
Yep.
really interesting about that is it wasn't it's not even close to what it became as time have
No.
gone on. The comics were so much different, and I wasn't a comic book person in my younger years at all, and still in my adult years not. But from the images I've saw from the documentaries, wow, that I've seen in the past, it is a completely different story. And the concept
So
of nowadays, like the base idea of four turtles, brothers, was always there, but
yes.
their personalities and what have been evolving over the years.
Yeah, so it is very different. I was not a comic book person either. I'm still kind of not. I really only religiously read the Transformers comics, and even then, I've only been really reading them religiously since like 2019. So I missed all of their run, but I did go back and check out some of their stuff, especially Last Ronin.
Hmm.
But
Which
we'll
we'll
get into
cover at
that.
the end. Yeah, we'll cover that at the end.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is very different than the snazzy, colorful, kid friendly, you know, toy line and show that we got. Especially in cartoon came out in '87. Oh boy, 5 years after I was born. Man, I'm feeling it. But
I
yeah,
love the
so it's
cartoon.
crazy.
It was so much fun. It was,
Yes.
Saturday, and I was born '85, so I was two when the comics came, or sorry, when the cartoon came out. So I really didn't start watching it
Mhm.
until the early '90s, probably.
Yes.
Rewind or reruns. But I remember watching it and just falling in love with these turtles and what they
They were
made.
great.
Yeah, they had their own unique personality. We all know that Michelangelo was the goofy one, right? We know that Raphael
Hmm.
was more the serious. He was like the a-hole. We know that Leonardo was the leader, and we knew that Donatello was the smart one. And it was cool
Yeah.
to see each story play with everyone's capacity. And even going into the movie, we got to
Hmm.
really, really see how deep you can take these characters. And I know, Mark, eventually you're going to run a Transformers episode,
Yes.
and you're going to explain how deep each character is there as well. And it's really
Yeah.
cool to see these
It's
fictional
funny.
characters come to life like this.
Yeah, and the thing is like the Transformers has a very different origin than Turtles. So, and we obviously won't get into that because this is about the Turtles and not Transformers. But Transformers completely came from, whereas Turtles came from a gritty comic book. Transformers came from a toy line. These characters didn't really have personalities or weren't meant to have personalities until they were licensed and someone was tasked with giving them names and writing their character backgrounds. So they had a very different origin than the Turtles, and they became another massively huge, beloved franchise. But the Turtles, it's so fascinating because I believe all of the original four Turtles voice actors are all still alive.
Yeah.
And it made some of these guys' careers. Cam Clark has been around a long, long time, and he is in a lot of things, from video games to cartoons, and also Robert Paulson, who Ninja Turtles isn't even his biggest thing. He was the Animaniacs,
Hmm.
and he came back again and did another turtle. I think he's the only voice actor for the Turtles that have done two different turtles.
I
I believe
think
he's the
so.
original.
Yeah.
I think he's the original Donatello and the new Raphael, I believe, or the
If you
vice versa, something like that.
if you've watched the 1987 cartoon and the voices
Mm-hmm.
sound very familiar to other cartoons of the same time periods because they were
And
huge voice
awesome.
actors back then. Ghostbusters and Ninja Turtles
Yep.
share a lot of the same voice actors across
Yeah,
all
just
kinds of them.
it's kind of funny you say that because like that was a very big thing for them. Just like G.I. Joe and Transformers. They all share a lot of the same voices. The voice of Cobra Commander was also the voice of Starscream. You know, Peter Cullen and Frank Welker has their voices all throughout some of those shows too. And it's funny because I don't think they really crossed each other, because like I look through some of the timeline, and I'm pretty sure maybe Frank Welker did, but I know Peter Cullen didn't do anything for Ninja Turtles, and I'm pretty sure Robert Paulson and some of those guys and Cam Clark, I know, didn't do anything for Transformers. So it's kind of neat. It's kind of neat in that way that they never kind of crossed into each other's domains, despite being successful 80s cartoons for children.
Mm-hmm. So we talked about the origins of it being a very serious black and white comic book, and then when the cartoon came out, it became colorful and bright. And the initial Turtles, they all had red bandanas in the comics, you know, black and white, of course, but it was red bandanas. And then it was the cartoon that gave them the colors, which is now the iconic colors of each turtle. We know orange for Michelangelo and purple for Donatello, etc. And I think
Don't worry, guys. Joe's learning to speak today. It's fine.
Very much. And here's the funny thing: is whenever I'm eating pizza, there is probably a 70% chance that I become interested in watching the 1990 Ninja Turtles movie. 70% chance.
You put a bandana on?
No, but so I went to go get pizza on Sunday. I know, hold on, what day was that? Friday. And of course, we got the pizza, and I was talking to my cousin at the time, and I was like, you know what? I feel like watching Ninja Turtles now. So I got home and I watched Ninja Turtles.
So let me make a real quick correction. Robert Paulson, he did the 87 Raphael and was back for in 2012 as Donatello, and I was very incorrect. He actually played several semi-major characters in the original Transformers. He was a couple members of the Aerial Bots, who was the very first combiner team for the good guys, for the Autobots. So that's kind of, and now that I'm like hearing their voices in my head, I'm like, well, shit, that makes sense. He was also a fairly major human character for the Autobots, and another character. So I know Cam Clark didn't cross over, but it's also very interesting that it seems like there was some crossovers there, which makes sense. But now that I'm hearing the voices in my head, I'm like, well, damn, he really did show up in. So Paulson was everywhere, which is great. I love Robert Paulson. He's an amazing guy, an amazing voice actor. He doesn't get enough credit. He's the because he was the guy who did I think his name's Yak. I think it's Yakko in
Animaniacs.
In Animaniacs, and he did that. You know that song, the United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama. He did that all in one take.
That's impressive.
All in one take. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, very impressive.
But yeah,
also impressive that the 1990 movie was able to get Jim Henson's creative shop involved, and the animatronics like I said, I just rewatched Ninja Turtles again for the 8,000th time, and as you get older, you start looking at the movie in different ways, and I've been focusing a lot more on this on the suits over the past 10 years, looking at the details, and it is incredible. Once in a while, you'll see a rubber kind of bouncing. The shell shouldn't be bouncing like that, but it's so rare. They did such an amazing job with the details. And to think that everyone survived from heat stroke, because these dudes were in these super tight suits doing martial arts to an effect in certain scenes in the summertime is incredible. And
it does seem like, though, that a lot of if I'm remembering the original Turtles movie, and maybe even the second one, I feel like unless they were probably in studios, right? So that maybe it was the ambiance that made it look like they were at night. But like a lot of their sceneries were at night, which might have been the only reason why they survived, because getting colder in the evening might have helped with
Yeah.
some of that.
Towards the beginning and the end was definitely very dark, but there's that middle part where they
Yes,
go to April's farm and they're outside and
that's
doing
true.
stuff. That was where they're practicing outside, and that's where when I remember watching documentaries that they talked about heat stroke and how these actors were just really
Hmm.
struggling, and like those helmets, the heads were difficult to do these movements with. I
Oh
remember
yeah.
just to kind of talk about the difficulty with that kind of stuff with the 89 Batman, Michael Keaton complained that he just couldn't turn his head left or right. And it was so difficult to act as Batman without having the movement that you normally would as a human. So he had to adapt and adjust to how that character would be portrayed in a movie versus, a comic or an animated series.
Yeah, I mean, well, that shows the testament of how good actors some of these guys actually were, because the fact that they made it work. Michael Keaton is to this day one of, if not the most believable Batman,
Oh yeah.
and the fact that he couldn't turn his head in any of the scenes is, you kind of forget about that little thing. I mean, it now that it's kind of pointed out to you, you probably can notice it more when you like go to rewatch it. But when you were watching it at the time,
Oh yeah, you don't
and
think
and
about that
like
kind of
maybe
stuff.
multiple yeah, you don't really think about that. Same thing with the when you're watching the Turtles movies, maybe especially when you're younger, you're not really thinking about the people in the suits.
No, you
You're
just seen
thinking
the
about how
action.
cool, yes, and how cool the Turtles look
Yeah.
on the live screens. And then as you get older, that's when you start to break it down and be like, man, they were in those suits. How did they move around? Like, how did they get that stuff done? Because they weren't in a time where they could just CGI the stuff in. There wasn't a lot of room for error.
And I'll tell you what,
He's,
we've come, and I don't want to jump too far ahead because we're going to talk about it
yes,
momentarily, but the Michael Bay was all CGI, whereas
yes.
this was not. This was all realistic. This was all animatronic stuff, and you will be able to tell as the years go on how well the 1990 movies holding up compared to
Yes,
the Michael Bay stuff with his all CGI. And we can
it's
see that
yeah.
with the Spider-Man movie, with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. He's flinging around there, all that CGI stuff. It looks just awful in today's time frame. Now the newer stuff looks good. The newer Tom Holland Spider-Man stuff looks good because it
Mhm.
has upgraded stuff. But in 10, 15 years, we're going to be like, I don't know anymore. Even like Lord of the Rings, there are parts of Lord of the Rings that are just CGI. You're like, it's not holding up as well as it used to. So there's something about animatronics. We talk about Jurassic Park, which was animatronics with the dinosaurs, how well that still looks compared to the stuff we see in the modern Jurassic Park, Jurassic World stuff. It is
Mhm.
phenomenal, the detail that they were able to, and they were smart about things. The lighting had to be perfect to make sure things matched out really well. The size of things, they wouldn't build complete full models of these dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. They would do just the parts that you need to be able to see. And this was a smart tactic to make it as lifelike as they possibly can.
Yeah. So Joe, because I noticed it's not on here in our bullet points, the 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series was the a kind of a return to the cartoon form after many years of the animated film or live action films. And this was one of the first shows that I believe was on Nickelodeon, and it was very interesting show in that it was co-produced by Mirage Studios, which is the original comic book company that had the Ninja Turtle comics all the way through till 2014. So they were putting out comics all the way till 2014, and they tried to keep the series a little bit more close to the comics. There was definitely there was a darker tone
Mhm.
to it. It's still a darker, more mature tone to it, but it still was kind of the Turtles. It was an evolution from the original cartoon of the kind of the younger. They were still Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? So, and they were their own show and they told their own continuity, but in a way, it felt so appropriate because when you watch the 87 cartoon as a child, those Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles do feel kind of like teenagers ish to young adults, and then you go into that second animated series where it's kind of like the people who watched the 87 cartoons are now adults, and so the show feels more like a young adult show, and it blended well. And there's a lot of people that actually find that the 2003 show they love it more than the original, which
Oh
is a
yeah,
very valid statement.
100%. One thing that and so again, I had pizza just before watching Ninja Turtles again, and my cousin had brought up something interesting, and that is back when they were making movies in the 90s, 80s, when they brought the villain on stage for the very first time, they were epic moments. And think
Mhm.
about with Ninja Turtles, the first time you get to see Shredder, the very
Oh
first
yeah.
time is it's dark, the music's going, right? And he's walking through this opening and he's speaking to all of the kids that want to be part of the Foot Clan, and
Yep.
he's treating them as they're outcast people, and that he will be there, and he says something along the lines of I am your father, and these are your brothers, and
Luke.
he's building this community of people, and it was such a scary moment to see and a surreal moment to like
Hmm.
holy crap. And like my cousin had brought up He-Man when he first sees Skeletor in the OG movie, it was the same kind of thing. You had this powerful enemy, and they were speaking about what they were going to do and the achievements and goals. And they don't do that anymore. It seems like in
Oh
movies,
no.
like you don't
It,
have this main bad guy that's like, wow, I'm kind of scared. Thanos, I guess, was the
it
last
was the
one. I was
first
like,
time. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, but Thanos, yeah, it was.
Hmm.
We're like, he's kind of crazy,
Interesting.
but at the same time, it wasn't as powerful as I feel like any of the 80s and 90s bad guys.
But I kind of see where you're coming from. I can kind of, now that you pointed that out, I never even thought about it. That I can kind of see that Thanos probably is the first meaningful enemy that I can think of in a big film for a long time. And you're right, because like I feel like Turtles was the first time that they really blended the child with the adult in
Yeah,
those scenes, because it didn't feel like it fit in almost, because you're going into a Turtles movie thinking fun and action packed, and these are the Ninja Turtles and they're silly and goofy, and then you get to these scenes where it's very real and it's very almost adult, and I think it feels like the first time
it's also
that
oh,
they
go ahead.
did that.
Yeah, it's also important to realize this, and that is in the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, when they were making shows based on these characters. It was about those characters and not their partners in crime. And the way why I bring that up is I'm going to jump forward just a little bit, and that's the Michael Bay movies, which was more about the surrounding cast and not so much the turtles themselves. We look at the Transformers movie that Michael Bay first came out with. It wasn't about
Mm-hmm.
Optimus Prime. It was about what's his name? Shiloh. What's
Shia
his?
LaBeouf.
Yeah, Shiloh. It was about him and his Megan Fox, and it wasn't about the Transformers themselves. The title of the movie, and that's gotten lost with time going on. And I don't understand why. I don't understand why movie studios have done this. Why they've pushed the main stars in the background and push forward
Yeah,
the side characters.
because sex sells. Real quick, just to put a nice little wrap on some of the older stuff. Let me just go back to the 2003 Turtle show real fast. There was a culmination. 2009. There was a kind of a TV movie called Turtles Forever that I highly
Yeah.
recommend.
Yep.
It was basically a hybrid of, it had the 2003 Turtles, it had the original 1987 Turtles, it had comic book versions of the Turtles, all crossing in through a multiverse and fighting
Yeah.
together
Yep.
to fight the big bad guy. And it was such a mwah, like a chef's kiss of fantastic, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I just wanted to put a nice little bow on that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's
the,
beautiful.
the Michael Bay films, it's one of those weird things though that I saw the Turtles, I saw their designs, immediately hated them.
Yeah.
And the first film was very Megan Fox centric as April O'Neil, and not being the greatest actress in the world, it does hurt some of the acting. But, and I hate ever giving Michael Bay any kind of credit for anything, so I'm not going to give him the credit. I'm going to give whoever actually was like, hey, let's make these guys the turtles, these voices. So the voices of the characters who play the four turtles in the Michael Bay film do a fantastic job of making the turtles feel like a unit, like a family. They fight like brothers. They like their wittiness, especially in the second film, I felt like was even better because the first film was more about establishing things. The second film, we got to see the turtles shine a bit more, and I felt that they were such a well-written group of characters as the group. It's just a shame that the movies themselves were a clusterfuck of terrible CGI stuff added in, Michael Bay's routine explosions, you cough and explode and you explode, that kind of stuff. But it's a shame.
Also give him the props for backtracking after the fan hate of the potential idea of the turtles coming from space. Killing the origin story of the actual ooze that they were walking through on Earth and that they weren't aliens.
There is a old school Nostalgia Critic episode where he talks about the Michael Bay Turtles, and it's still one of my favorite skits to this day, of where he went through one of his little crash out moments where he's like, this is actually a great thing, and then he simultaneously is crossing out all of the well, they're no longer teenagers, they're just Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
But no, so it ended up being the alien. Oh man, it was like alien mutant big boobied explosions or something like they weren't even turtles anymore. They were just explosions with masks, and they were all women and they had giant boobs, and it was really stupid, but I remember that well because of, and that was all the flack of Michael Bay trying to screw around with an origin story, which was already kind of crazy with the whole mutant ooze going down the sewer and randomly hitting these four turtles that just so happen to be in the sewer with the rat. It was already kind of eccentric, and you're trying to make them aliens now.
Think about the time, though. Think about the time. The time when that happened was nuclear waste, right? Simpsons were talking about it, and they had three-eyed fish and all that stuff. So the idea was there. It was already happening in real world with nuclear waste. They're thinking about the same thing when it came to the ooze in Ninja Turtles. So for the time frame, it made sense. Today, you're like, okay, well, obviously we know nuclear waste is a big deal, but obviously it's not making, well, at least that we know of, it's not making talking turtles.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
The Michael Bay movie, it had its pluses, it had its minuses. Like, again, let's talk about the Shredder's intro. The first time you see Shredder in the Michael Bay. Okay, first off, my issue with the Michael Bay one, there are many of them, but one of my biggest issues outside the Turtles himself was that the Shredder was this, 5'9" dude that had to get into this mech suit. And that's who was the Shredder.
The idea behind it wasn't the worst part. It was the fact that...
Yeah, it made sense. You're going against these 7-foot tall mutant turtles, and of course this little, 5'9" Asian guy's not going to beat up four brothers, so you need to have the super armor. Okay, but
they needed to
stop making them so damn tall.
Look menacing, though. That's where they screwed up. I think. I get where you're coming from, and I agree with you. He didn't look like a menacing person himself. I think if they would have casted, or at least, I guess, done him up to make him look menacing, then him stepping into a bigger, stronger suit would have kind of amplified that. Be like, oh, this guy's already tough as is, and he can kind of do a little bit of damage, like maybe have a little mini fight scene where, yeah, he can't beat all four brothers together, but maybe he's fighting one or two of them, and he does a little bit of damage, and then he steps into this big, powerful suit, and you would have been talking about a whole different fear factor.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It was an interesting choice, and there were a lot of things that were questionable with that movie. But like you said, the voice acting was probably the best of it all, and
Absolutely.
the story, the base story was okay as well. The sequel to it,
There was a lot of problems, but there was also a lot of good. The fact that they listened to fans
yeah,
and
the Turtles definitely felt
gave
more
us
like the Turtles from the cartoon and
yes,
stuff. They
Megan
definitely,
Fox took a step back.
absolutely, it was definitely more about the Turtles as a whole versus the side people, which was
The
great.
only glaring issue I had with that film was Casey Jones was absolutely awful.
Yeah, that was a miscast for sure.
I love Stephen Amell,
Hmm.
but you don't put a guy like Stephen Amell in a movie where you need the guy to be a badass wearing a hockey
Yeah,
mask. You
yeah,
needed to have someone kind of gruff and maybe not the most handsome in the world
yep,
because he never wore the mask hardly because why would you cover up his face?
hmm,
But he also was just not Casey Jones.
yeah,
So that was the biggest glaring issue. That and the fact that like the fandom really disappointed me. That was the first time I'd been really, really disappointed in a fandom because they gave us stuff that we wanted. We wanted Bebop and Rocksteady. We
yep,
wanted Krang, and they said, "Here you go," and nobody went to see the damn thing. And
yeah,
I was very saddened that that was kind of the end of that franchise, that movie franchise, at least for the foreseeable future. It looks like they're going to be sticking to animated movies for the foreseeable future, which is fine. But, given how you and I especially have such a fondness for the original, live action films and don't massively hate the Bay films the way some people do,
hmm,
it's just a shame.
yeah. It made 50% less money than the first one did.
Did it
The
cost more to make?
2014. Slightly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Not much though. Not much. The original made
Okay,
485 million. The sequel made
it's about 200
246
something.
million.
Mm,
Or sorry, yeah,
yeah.
245. Yeah. So and the budget wasn't within it. There was no original budget numbers for sure. But it was anywhere between 100 250 million. The
Hmm.
sequel made 135. Or sorry, budget was 135. So it was within the same price tag. It just didn't
Yeah,
make the big money that they expected it to make. And again,
that's a shame.
what would have happened going forward is the question mark, whether it would have been good or bad. The sequel definitely, in my opinion, was better than the original in that series.
Yeah.
And then we jump forward to the 2018 Rise of the TMNT. And this was an anime style version of it. I didn't mind it. I thought it was pretty decent for its time. And it also came out with a Netflix movie, which I don't remember ever watching the Netflix movie, but I did watch the
Uh,
series.
I did not watch the series. I watched the movie. The movie was a one shot, felt like you needed to see something, which I'm assuming was the series,
Hmm.
to understand where the storyline was. And I really enjoyed it, even going in not really knowing what what was going on with it. We did miss the 2012 Nickelodeon
Oh yeah, yeah,
CGI animations, which
yeah.
was
That was good
actually
too. I like that one.
I didn't like it at first. And then I gave it a shot and was like, oh wow, this is
That was
actually really well
Raphael
done.
was leaving again, and he was
Yep.
going and doing his own thing like he always does.
Yeah. It was the newer series, I think the 2023 one that was it 2023 or was it was the new cartoon series, not the movie that was done in the Spider-Verse style.
Mm,
Maybe it was the Rise of the Ninja Turtles,
yeah,
where Raphael looked really different. He was the leader, but he was like really big and bulky, and one of
yeah,
them was
yeah.
really.
I think that was Rise.
I A lot of people say it's really good, and I've never sat down and watched it, so I don't want to like badmouth it. I just know that the initial the look of them initially threw me off, and it's kind of likewise why I haven't seen the 2023 film, because I hadn't yet adjusted to the Spider-Verse style of animation. Now that I've kind of seen a little bit more of it, and I'm kind of like down for that kind of animation, I need to go back and sit down and watch it, because that, and what really threw me off. This is going to sound really weird. So the Ninja Turtles, while being Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, were never really felt like teenagers, but at the same time did. This particular film, the one on the Netflix Spider-Verse style animation, was the first time where the Ninja Turtles seemed like they were kids, like they were
Yeah.
young teenagers.
Yeah.
And it threw me off. It was very jarring to me. I'm not a big fan of the change in April O'Neil. I'm not going to get into like race or anything like that, because I don't think there's anything wrong with like if they cast like a character who's been predominantly white, if they cast them to be African American or anything else. It just threw me off a little bit. I guess her design being so different than all the other Aprils kind of threw me off a little bit as well. So it's just one of the things where I need to kind of go into that film and sit down and be like, look, this is a different take. You need to be completely open-minded, and then I think I'll enjoy it, because I've never watched a piece of turtle media and been like, I hate this. I don't like this.
Nothing's
Like,
ever, yeah. And real quick before we go, keep going further, is I forgot to mention the 2019 Batman versus the Ninja Turtles,
oh, that was
which
such a good film.
it was a comic book that was inspired by the comic
Yes, it
books,
was.
but they also made a live action, or not live action, sorry, cartoon version, and it
There was
was
a
really,
cartoon version.
really, really, really
It
good.
was very good. Also, I do want to add that the among the comics as well, there was a manga. There was a Japanese related
Oh yeah,
manga, so
yep.
it had branched into that, and then even as recently as modern times, I believe, I haven't seen it yet, but there is a collaboration between the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and a major anime slash manga character named Naruto. A big series about a teenager who's a ninja, and there's a collaboration that either is or was going on with that, which is a very big, very big collab, at least for the on the Japanese side. So
Yeah.
that shows you that the staying power of the Turtles, that they branched into, which Turtles being a predominantly American series, got so big that it, you could see it in Japan.
hmm So the last thing we had for at least our movies from the Turtles has been the 2023 Mutant Mayhem, which I had a
Mm-hmm.
lot of fun with. I had a lot of question marks because I get nervous when fans of stuff helm a series. And Seth Rogen is a huge fan of Ninja Turtles. And so I questioned it because there's like, yeah, he's a big fan. He's going to bring a lot of passion into it. And then it came out and I saw the initial trailer. I was like, ooh, I don't know about that. And then I watched the movie and I was blown away with how good it is. It's a lot of fun. It keeps it very similar to the OG stuff. And the story was great. And it was just a very fun movie to watch.
Yeah. I need to sit down. I definitely need to sit down and watch it. And I do plan on doing so when I get some extra time. It's just one of those things, like, you with your life and what's going on, it's so hard
Yeah.
to come up and have extra time. Also, Ninja Turtles, a lot of people kind of underestimate the staying power of their video games. Like even the original NES game, which was notoriously difficult. Their arcade beat 'em up games are so iconic
Oh,
to me.
there are so many amazing
How many
beat 'em ups.
quarters? How
hmm
many quarters I lost to Turtles in Time? It's not even funny.
And then we have more recently for beat 'em up, the Shredder's Revenge,
Which was
which
very good.
yeah, it was Steam's best-selling game for a couple weeks there once it was released, and I also think it's part of Xbox Game Pass right now, which I was recently playing it. It's so much fun. It feels very OG. It has the old pixel
It is.
graphics, and
Yep.
they did a really good job keeping the fighting style very similar to the old arcade stuff. So very well
hmm
done. And then let's jump to the future.
Yep.
As recently, a new trailer, a teaser trailer came out for The Last Ronin, which is a comic book that came out
I'm
a few
so
years
excited.
back. Yeah. So The Last Ronin, if people don't know, it is going to be starring Raphael,
Hmm.
and his brothers and father had passed away
Yep.
because the Foot and Shredder had won. And it's
Yep.
the revenge story of Raphael. And it's beautiful
Hmm.
because if you've watched the OG cartoons, if you watch the OG movie of the 90s, you know Raphael, his connection with his brothers is very interesting because he's such an asshole. He's such a prick to them, but he loves them with so much passion because he has so much rage built up in his body. He's so different from his brothers, where he's such an individual. You know,
So
he wants to fight, he loves to fight with his brothers,
he's
but
the older brother, even though they're all like the same
he's
age.
like
He
seconds
was
ahead.
very, he was, yes, he was very much the older brother of the four
Yeah.
brothers.
Hmm.
The one that's like, you can't boss me around because I'm better than you, kind of,
But he's not
older
a leader in
brother.
that fact
But
either.
exactly, he's
He
not a
can't
leader.
build his brothers together. All he can do is
Exactly.
tear them down for what he
And he
thinks is
doesn't mean
best.
to. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he doesn't mean to. You could tell that a lot of what he does as a character, he does it with love, but he doesn't understand it. He's got a lot of pent up frustration and aggression. Maybe a lot of it has to do with maybe he's not as. A lot of it could be like jealousy. He's not as carefree as Michelangelo. He's not as intelligent as Leonardo, and he's not as he's not kind of like arguably the dad's favorite, where it seemed like Leonardo kind of took to Splinter's teachings a lot
Yeah.
better and thus made him the leader. And so there was a lot of like maybe jealousy there, and it just paves the way for a very intriguing character. And now you fast forward to something like the Last Ronin, and where all of his brothers are dead, and his father figure is dead, and you've got someone who the joy of his life with Michelangelo is gone, the guidance of it with his father, and and the intelligence, and everything, and just the overall camaraderie's gone, and then you've got someone who's very angry and very he doesn't know where to place his emotions other than pain, and and having that funnel to release it on, being the people who killed his family, is very it's very interesting. I am so looking forward to this film, and at the same time I'm so positively terrified of it, because there's the one thing where we who know, right, we who know are going to watch this film and probably love it, but if they if they call it anything other than just The Last Ronin, if they call it Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles The Last Ronin, I'm afraid that people are just going to look at that first title, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and be like, let's go take our kids to this film, and then realize that this isn't a kids film, and it's going to hurt some of the perception of the Ninja Turtle
Well,
franchise.
so
So I'm
the comic book title does have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It just says The Last Ronin is in big letters, and the OG comic it's not OG, I guess, but the comic it's smaller Ninja Turtles title. So it does have it in there.
Yeah, which I'm assuming they'll do this way too, and maybe they'll call it The Last Ronin, and then tagline Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Hmm.
I just hope that people know, like, because I think it's. Do we know? Is it shooting for an R?
Yeah, it is R.
Of
Yep, yep. It'll
Okay,
receive an R
good,
rating.
good, good, good. Because that's what I was afraid of as well. Is you
Now think of this
you
real
see
quick.
people? Yeah.
It's the film director, sorry, not director, the executive producer also did movies such as The Conjuring, Annabelle, Lights Out, It.
Ooh,
So
boy.
it is going to be a freaking dark film.
I just hope that people, normal, regular people, do their research and see that it's got a rated R and title, and not see, oh, it's a Ninja Turtles film. Let's take little Timmy to it, and then psychologically scar the kid, and then we get Karen writing, how dare make this film that has these characters that are supposed to be for children, and it's this dark and gritty thing, even though it will clearly have the R-rated title thing on it and this and that. It's just a lot of like my fears are probably unwarranted, but it's still a fear I have for anyone who has like a beloved franchise like a Turtles, like a Transformers. I went through that a little bit with Transformers 1, for example. Granted, nowhere near as what this film is going to be, being an R-rated film compared to the Transformers 1 film that came out last year for me. But you get what I'm saying. Like there's the fear factor of like something beloved doing poorly because of misconceptions. And then I just hope that it does as well as I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a good film. I just hope it does well. Because maybe it'll give people who are in this industry, like Transformers, like other media, that is like, well, look, this thing was an R-rated film and did really well. Maybe we can do that with our franchise.
Yeah. We're likely going to get the game before the movie. And the game is going to play out very similar to the recent God of War games where you're playing as Kratos. In this case, you're playing as Raphael. And
are there sex mini games?
Yeah, well, but so it will be really cool if they can capture the rage that Kratos has, because Kratos is just so angry and pissed off, and that's what Raphael will likely be in this new in the Last Ronin. So it could be an exceptionally amazing game. Now it is being produced by THQ and then Black Forest Games. So it has the capability of being an incredible game, and it's going to be available, of course, on the consoles and the PC. And like I said, it's that the game is in early development still, so we might see it in 2026. Question mark. The movie hasn't even started filming yet. I don't think the story's even quite done yet. So that I'm guessing 2027. So we have a couple years yet before we see a movie or the game. But the game was announced by it was at a Sony event. It was announced in 2023.
I didn't even know there was a game coming, so that's the first I heard.
But the recent information that was announced was that it's going to be a God of War inspired game. So I'm really excited for both the game and the film. And I think the future of Ninja Turtles is ever so bright, and we'll see what happens going forward.
Or dark.
Or dark. All right. Anything else we can add to this episode, Mark?
Not for the episode itself, just on a personal note, twitch.tv/HisokaRPG. As of this recording, I will be going live immediately after, or very shortly after the recording of the podcast, and looking to regularly stream 3 to 4 days a week, maybe 2 to 3 if I feel like 3 to 4 is too much. I'm not going to go too crazy. I'm not going to go too hardcore. I'm going to ease into everything. But that's actually happening starting today. I've had some things push me back way more than I intended, but we're finally moving forward.
And as we said last episode, if Mark didn't start streaming, then Pixel Realms would be dead, and he's officially doing it starting today at the end of this episode. So
Pixel Realms is dead because I didn't do it in time, so I'm sorry. No kidding.
So Mark will be streaming soon, so excited for him, and we'll see everyone for the next episode. As always, take care.
And bye-bye.